Hello, I am just one of those INTJs that you so commonly find on the internet. Today, I am continuing my exploration of Socionics, and I am taking a free test from Testometrica. Might as well just get right into it because basically it just says, hey, it's based on Jung and these things, just like every other Socionics test, so. Okay, so this is a forced choice test. I will be choosing one or the other. Which statement describes you the best? I make decisions based on facts and experiences. I act intuitively. I come across this all the time. Basically, it's like, are you SETE or are you like one of the intuitive types? And I'm an intuitive dominant, but my TE is so strong that I prefer to act upon facts and experiences because that's my tool set in the world, but I can't deny the fact that I am an intuitive actor through my introverted intuition. So I think I have to go with that one. Oh, I love the little, like, I'm gonna draw a circle with my squiggly pen. That's nice. I like that. I appreciate that. I prefer fancy, elegant clothes. I prefer practical and comfortable. Definitely more on the practical, comfortable side. But, you know, we can all get a little bit fancy at times. If I had a specific purpose or function where fancy or elegant was kind of the expectation, I would at least try to shoot for it. But in my everyday life, I'm definitely more on the practical side. I like pockets. I like comfort. I prefer lively, energetic music. I prefer calm and melodic music. I actually like lively, energetic music. I like to boom, 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 boom. That's my extroverted sensing. But look, whenever I'm doing work, whenever I'm focusing, I will often have like dark, melodic cello music playing in the background. But whenever it's just like me, I'm out walking, I'm bebopping around, maybe I'm going for a jog, then I think I prefer the lively, energetic. Why is this a dichotomy? I don't know. Different moods for different purposes, you know. It is best to stick to the plan. It is best to be guided by the circumstances. I'm always going to be in the mindset of you should look at the circumstances and be guided by that because I'm very much like fit to purpose. And look, I plan a lot ahead. I look at different things and contingencies and stuff, but you can't always account for the things that are going to happen as they are happening. So you need to build into your plan some measure of adaptability, or like I said, contingency. You need a way out of your plan. You just can't strictly adhere to that all the time. So I think it is better to look at the circumstances. I spread the tasks evenly throughout the allocated period. I leave everything into the last moment. I definitely more of a, that's where my planning and structure comes from, right? Because I'm going to chunk it out and I'm going to allocate resource management, the extroverted thinking, this amount of time goes to this object in order to complete it. Yeah. People's indifference doesn't bother me. Cold attitude of people around me makes me feel uneasy. Yeah, I'm not here to judge people's indifference, their difference, their emotional mood. If you're emotionally expressive, that's fine. Sometimes if you're emotionally expressive to manipulate people, that'll irritate me. But indifference is like, you can care about whatever you're going to care about. That's fine. That's your own personal interest. Information at my disposal always works. I try to keep most of the information just in case. What is this saying? I try to keep most, first I can't keep the information. If I write it down maybe, but am I even going to look at it again in the future? Hard to say. I have a lot of like notes I've never revisited. So having information at my disposal is probably more of what I'm going to do, like looking things up on the internet, that sort of thing. I'm not going to retain it in my head, is what I'm saying. My life is stable and even. My life is a series of ups and downs. I'm more on the stable side. I include only reliable people in my inner circle. I choose my friends with my heart and not my head. I think you can do both. You can choose your friends with your values and feelings, and you can maintain the relationships with people who are reliable to you. It's kind of what I do. I have a sense about people, and I kind of have this idea of whether or not it's going to work out between us or whether I want to pursue that friendship, that relationship. And, some people are just unreliable, and you can still keep them in your friend group. Maybe not your inner circle, but as someone you know. And you're like, maybe let's see if that person will show up or not. But I'm not going to like scope them into my plans because it's like, oh, they're probably not going to be available, or they're going to flake, or I can't really take them at their word because they have this pattern of flaking. Logic and reason are more important than feelings and emotions. I am led by my heart and not my mind. Like I've said before, everything happens in the brain and in your nervous system and your hormones. Either way, I get conceptually what they're saying, but I just like to, on this particular point, be specifically pedantic. I like to be contrarian about it. But yeah, logic and reason. My authority is based on my competencies and sharp mind. People are attracted to me because of my empathy and sensitivity more than anything else. Probably this first one, because people don't see my empathy or sensitivity. I need a strict work schedule. I need to have some freedom in my work. I do. I need to be the one who's in control of my own work. My emotions are stable. My emotions are unstable and change often. Okay. Yeah, I'm very stable. It is easier for me to make contacts myself. It is easier for me to wait until others approach me. Definitely, it's easier for me to wait for others to approach me, but they don't approach me. So oftentimes it's like, if I want something, unfortunately, I have to be the one who's making contact, so I have to keep on reminding myself to do it, because it's not something I think of immediately to establish the connection and reach out to the person. It's like, oh man, I really like that person. And no one ever reaches out to me. So it's like this weird catch-22 where it's like, even though it's easier for me to be responsive and wait for other people, who's approaching me? No one. I tend to act rather than come up with ideas. I tend to generate ideas rather than implement them. I do a bit of both. NITE, that is the beauty and the charm. Let's go more ideas. I try to use all available means to achieve the results. Original idea is more important to me than its realization. I'm not a bulldozer. I'm not going to use all available means, it's not all means to an end sort of situation here. I have a moral code. But I also need to see my ideas play out in reality. That's part of the extroverted thinking, so I'll go with this. I am cool-headed and calm. I am sensitive and sympathetic. A little bit of both, but more on the top side here. Rationality and practicality are my priorities. It is more important to me to comply with moral standards. Rationality and practicality, yep. My actions and judgment are based on facts, yes. My actions and judgments are based on perspective, yes. See my dilemma? Both of these are true. That's the really rough thing, because if you've operated long enough with introverted intuition as your dominant function, you're really skeptical of yourself a lot of the times. The intuition is just so pervasive and common. Perspectives offer frames through which to view the information you're receiving. You can't allow yourself to get locked into searching constantly for new perspectives, because it's all subjective and they will exist wildly, and at a certain point, diminishing returns, it's not offering you new information or new frames to organize the information. So you really need to infuse more facts or more empiricism, more of what is actually occurring in reality, the consensus on what is considered objective reality outside of yourself. You need to infuse that into your perspectives. So this is one of those ones where I can't possibly. I don't like this question. I'll go with perspective. I always try new things. I allocate my time rationally and limit the variety of things that I do. Yeah, probably the second one. First, I need to gather all the available information and analyze it. True. First, I need to make contact. Contact with what? People? Aliens? The universe? Yeah, I don't know. I am comfortable with the strict schedule. The strict schedule. Not even the sense of duty will keep me within the rigid framework. Yeah, I mean, I have that rebellious side where it's like, I'm gonna bust out of this and do things my own way. When in company, I concentrate on other people. When in company, I tend to stick to myself. It depends on how big the company. I mean, if I'm going to an event where there's socializing, I'm going to try to be with the company. That's the purpose of the company. But if I'm being dragged along to a family event where I don't know half my family because they're very distant relatives, and I can't remember their names, and I don't know what to talk about, and what do we even have in common, you know? Like, I will probably stick more to myself, and definitely more as a child. But typically, if I'm going to an organized event with people, I'm going there for the people, to interact with the people, so I will do my best. It'll be a poor effort, but I'll try. It'll be my focus. Yeah, I feel the obligation to talk to people if that's the purpose. It's purpose driven, not people driven. No, I mean I care about people. So that's why the purpose is happening. I don't know. I'm an open person. I'm a closed up and restrained person. My openness on the big five is pretty high. I have like an open attitude because I don't want to be a closed off person. I think in order to build yourself and to grow over time and evolve, you need to be open to a certain amount of the world, whether that's other people or experiences. Am I always the best at this? No, not really, but I try. I try to be open. It's an attitude of openness. And it's like, I'm not really naturally an open person, but I am imposing this strict attitude of openness because that's what I want to be. That's who I want to be. If there is not enough information, I will go look for more. Yes. If there is not enough information, I will act intuitively. Yes. It depends on the circumstance, right? Because if there's not enough time to gather information, I'm going to act intuitively. Like, if there's not the resources to get more information in a certain time period, then I'm just going to go for it, you know? But if there's resources available, I'm always going to use the resources. My ideas are all checked out and safe. Yeah, I vet my ideas, I guess. My ideas are usually experimental. It depends on the type of experimentality. Don't know if that's a word. Experimentalism. It it depends. In what way is it experimental? Like ideologically experimental? Yes. Physically experimental? Heck no. I'll go with the top one. When telling a story, I try to keep all the details accurate. When telling a story, I can make up some parts of it. Well, I don't really retain detail. I try to be as accurate as possible if I'm telling a true to life story, but it's probably going to come out more conceptual than anything else. And I can make up stories, I can make up details a lot easier than I can retain details of reality, which is crazy. So oftentimes my stories based on not real things are much more engaging than my stories about mundane real life. I am consistent in my actions, but I could use some flexibility. I am flexible and quickly adapt to changes, but I could use some consistency. Probably the top one. Emotions don't interfere in my life. My life is deeply influenced by my emotions. Yeah, I mean, I think both are true because, like, my emotions are my core driving force and motivation of, like, my purpose and how I find meaning in life and meaning in my actions. It's very much driven by the emotionality that's, like, beneath the surface, if you're, thinking of the INTj, like iceberg and such. However, they don't interfere in my life in the sense that I don't allow them to overwhelm or overcome me unless in very specific circumstances. I am constantly learning something new. I try not to tackle new skills before I master the old ones. I'm not a strict specialist in that I have to continue to like master skills. I often see skills as like a network of competency. So you have to build up skills that are associated with each other. You build up that density in your network of skills in order to unlock something greater. So you often have to take on and tackle new skills that are related to each other in association in order to move forward and advance. You can't just like, well, I guess you could pinpoint one skill and try to go as deep as possible into it. I just don't think that I'm suited for that type of thing, and maybe I'm just more of a generalist. I do like to learn new things all the time, but it's usually, like I've said, it's usually along a conceptual pattern. I'm building towards something, but it's like new stuff that I'm like learning and trying to like conceptualize it in different ways, but it's like this holistic, like I'm aiming for something in particular. It's gonna screw up my results. I prefer a calculated approach in dry facts. I prefer an empathetic approach. Why do you have to put it this way? It makes the first one sound so negative, right? Who wants to say that they're calculated and dry? Like, your connotation is all off. That being said, like, I do prefer facts. I want to consider people's emotions because people are the people who are going to be using and adopting the solution, right? I think I've talked about this before. But, you know, someone's feelings might be getting in the way, and you do have to override that sometimes. I am known as a disciplined and emotionally stable person. True. People can hardly understand my mood swings. Yeah, definitely stable. I feel highly negative about absurd situations in the absence of logic. People's rudeness bothers me much more than absurd situations. Yeah, I love the absurd. That's like my forte. It is easier for me to clearly present my thoughts. It is easier for me to describe my mood with abstract notions. But I present my thoughts clearly through abstract notions. I'm just an abstract abstractor, so it's all going to be abstract, whether it's my thoughts or my emotions. I'm going to go with the TE of it, maybe. I can't stand sudden changes in my environment. Sudden changes are common for me. Neither. I'm fine with changes. I don't love it, but it's not like I can't stand it. I don't completely freak out. Probably the first one is more true. I'm a realist, I'm a dreamer. Definitely a realist. I feel more comfortable using tested and reliable instruments. Unusual and unknown things are my element. I do like the unusual and unknown. Sympathy is not the most important thing for me. Sympathy is a priority for me. Sympathy is important, yes, because it's how you understand the perspectives of other people. And perspectives are key to the way an intuitive individual operates. It is something I prioritize, I think. I can be called an open person. It is hard for me to open up to others. I can call myself an open person, but I don't think other people would see that. Because, again, they're not approaching me, they're not talking to me. Whenever I do interact with people and, you know, I establish this connection and I have deep conversations with them, then yeah, I do open up. Like, there's not anything I'm unwilling to talk about. But people don't initially see that. So I feel like because they don't see that, I can't answer. Oops. I have to answer the second one. I can talk to strangers easily. I am not comfortable talking to strangers. I'm not comfortable talking to strangers, but I will try. Because if people aren't going to talk to me, I inevitably do have to talk to others, but not strangers. Usually I observe them beforehand, which sounds creepy, but it's just me trying to get the essence of the person. So I have some initial knowledge. It's not completely dangerous and random for me to talk to people. I like working in a large group of friendly people. Large group, no. Friendly people, yes. I am more comfortable working when there is not much contact with colleagues. I mean, probably. Probably, yeah. I hate that they word it this way because it makes me sound bad. My friends see me as a consistent person. My friends know me as flexible and changeable. Consistent. I try to get the results straight away. Usually I postpone things until later. I do like to have information sooner rather than later, but sometimes I can postpone things in favor of gathering more information. But sometimes to gather more information, I have to test at least a small thing within reality and then get the feedback from that. So probably the first one. Others value me for being a reasonable person. Others value me for being a sensitive and cordial friend. I think once people know me, they can see me as more of a cordial, maybe not sensitive, but more of a cordial friend. So probably just being more reasonable is maybe the more common thing. My strength lies in practice, not in my imagination. My strength lies in imagination, not in my practical abilities. I'm going to thumbs down that because, again, INTe does have a lot of movement within reality and functionality. A lot of practical abilities in that tool function, extroverted thinking. I can't choose my practical abilities over my imagination. I prize it too highly. The workplace must be appealing and stylish. The workplace must be functional and practical. I'm gonna go practical. I'm more comfortable showing and explaining. I'm more comfortable listening. Right, listening. I feel my body well. Sometimes I withdraw into myself and lose connection with my body. Probably the second one here. Practicality helps me stay afloat in this world. Others are concerned that I am an impractical person. No, I'm very practical. I am only relaxed when everything is in order and well organized. I can't imagine myself being comfortable without having new sensations and experiences. Neither. I think there has to be a degree of order, but yeah, I mean, it's usually order in the physical environment, maybe. Go with the first one. I try not to do too many things at once. I always try to do everything at the same time. I do sometimes try to do everything at the same time, and it doesn't work well. So I end up having to do the first one. I'm like, I cannot. I proved to myself again and again that I can't multitask, even though like I would love the efficiency to do so. I don't think humans can, well, at least my attention cannot switch between tasks fast enough in order to appear to be multitasking. Things go well when I think them through in advance. Yeah, things go well when I improvise. Probably the first one. Okay, your results. Okay, it likes to put me as, let me move myself back over again since we're, look, I have a perfect little corner here. Okay, it's putting me as the analyst INTj again, which, if we recall in Socionics, is translated as an INTP in Myers-Briggs type indicator. However, I know for a fact that I do not use introverted thinking. And any introverted thinking users out there will be like, she is definitely not an INTP. I just highly value logic. It's technically my second function, but it's extroverted thinking logic. So it's like, what is the logic and what is the informal logic? What are people doing? How are people operating and functioning within reality? Like, I really think that's important. And then a lot of the introverted intuition is going to classify, it's going to order things and organize the information into frames or perspectives. And it's going to scope in time elements, it's going to scope in cause and effect. So the introverted intuition is doing a lot of the things that maybe TI is associated with, except for TI is constantly judging things and has very precise logic. So, I mean, I can't really, I'll read the description and maybe it will kind of describe me, because I think what I've realized is that in Socionics, I'm somewhere between INTj and INTP. Analyst. Highly developed analytical skills allow these people to handle categorization, structuring, and other operations with information perfectly. Uncompromising, judgmental, simply ignore the norms. I mean, sometimes, yeah. Offer a new way of solving a problem after analyzing it. That sounds like extroverted thinking to me. But it could be TINE, maybe the way that they're meaning it. Tolerant of other points of views. This is exactly like the other description I read, right? From the other website. So this must be a Victor Galenko test sort of version, right? One hobby constantly developing, participate in conversations that interest them, no empathy. I would agree with that. What I have is sympathy. And I think actually sympathy is introverted feeling, right? Because sympathy is, this is how I believe I would feel in that person's situation. I'm not mirroring their emotions. I'm not empathizing. I'm not feeling that wave of emotion coming onto me and mirroring that and and really like connecting with that. What I'm doing is I'm trying to understand the person as they are holistically, and I'm considering that, and I'm thinking about their mannerisms and such, and the complexities of the character and what they've told me their attitudes are. And I'm like, okay, if I had all of that situation going on, but it was me, what kind of emotions does that bring up or tap into for myself? And that is introverted feeling, and that's sympathy. So, no empathy, perhaps. Stick to their own rules in relationships, don't adapt to others. I think that's just unhealthy. I think you should be adapting to others as much as you can tolerate, because you have to get along in the world. So you shouldn't have such a closed off attitude. So I do disagree with that about myself. Resent having unexpected guests. Perhaps, yeah. I don't like surprises. Yeah, I don't know how to entertain them. Yeah, I would be kind of out of sorts. I would kind of need someone to communicate that information to me, like, okay, you can come in, but please tell me what would you like me to do for you? I don't know how to just entertain you. This is an interesting thought. The more they sympathize with a person internally, the less they show interest externally. Is that because it's a vulnerability? I need to keep my distance because I relate to you so hardcore that it is now kind of a vulnerability. I think this is not entirely true of myself, because I'm not exactly emotionally expressive to begin with. But if I really sympathize with a person, it's not going to make me show less. I'll probably have the same expressionality either way, but I might show up for that person. I might give them more leeway if I deeply sympathize with them. I might have more to offer them. Despite stubbornness, leadership qualities are poorly developed. Oh, that's just a rude statement. You're just throwing rudeness at me. Perhaps my leadership qualities are poorly developed, but it has nothing to do with my level of stubbornness. The language of force does not work for this type either. That's true. Interesting. Well, Jodie Foster is often seen as an INTj in MBTI, and I would agree with that. Like, after watching interviews with Jodie Foster, as she is now in the present day, she's so like amazing and poised, and just like everything about her is like kind of my ideal trajectory for what an INTJ can grow into and become. Like, go and watch Jodie Foster. I might have to do a react video because she's lovely. I love Jodie Foster. Scientist, mathematician, judge, doctor, lawyer. Wow, that's really ambitious. Okay, and here's how it kind of worked out the score, I guess. 5 of 13, 8 of 13, so I'm much more introverted. Okay. Sensory, more intuition than sensory. Logic over ethics. So, okay, rational. Ooh, it's using like the 4-letter system that like 16 personalities would use, and I'm not a fan of that. I much prefer using the cognitive functions as a basis. I think it just is more refined. So, should I rate the test? Maybe I should. It was bad. Okay, so that's my official stance. It was bad. I think that's going to... I'm very confused now, because like Jodie Foster is an MBTI INTJ, and I agree with that assessment. Russell Crowe is not an INTJ, and he's not an INTP. I'm not sure what he is, but I think Russell Crowe might be an extrovert. You should see him nowadays. He's like a real sweet, like, grandpa type. Very lovable. I don't know enough about these people's mannerisms in order to like rate what they might be personality-wise. So yeah, in my opinion, the test was bad. But that's okay. We're gonna leave it here, and as always, I hope you have a wonderful day wherever that day may find you. Even if that day finds you, I don't know, what should we say for this one? Where is this day finding you? I don't know. Even if that day finds you rewatching like Silence of the Lambs because that movie is freaking awesome. Yeah.